Hi there, I'm AK and I'm the tech lead at Mixpanel. Today, I want to talk about product analytics in the healthcare industry. Over the past couple of years, we've seen an explosion of growth in healthcare technology. There are so many different apps and services out there that have the mission of helping people with their health. You know, fitter, happier, more productive, that kind of thing. All of these apps, websites, and services can only grow if they are able to leverage the rich analytical usage and behavioral data that's created by their end users. In a sense, healthcare and health tech companies are just like every other company that make a digital product. But in another sense, healthcare companies are totally different. Financial goals and patient outcomes don't always correlate. Privacy, legal, and regulatory frameworks are just different. And therefore, normal metrics for e-commerce or media companies just don't fit the healthcare vertical. So to help all of you out there in healthcare land discover a scalable and robust analytics implementation, here are some tips and tricks and general advice for those getting started with product analytics, specifically for healthcare apps. We'll start at the beginning with data collection, and then move on to talk about analysis, behaviors, and metrics. In order to make use of your data, you will need to collect it. Mixpanel provides many different options for collecting data. These include leveraging an existing tag manager, doing analytics implementations in code. If you have a customer data platform, Mixpanel can tap into these data streams with minimal configuration. Mixpanel can even help you visualize data that resides in your data warehouse using our no-code connectors for the major cloud providers. Most of the organizations that I have worked with already have some kind of data capture mechanism in place. For new projects, I recommend starting with a small scope and following the path of least resistance. To that end, I'll show a few quick examples of how you can integrate your data with Mixpanel, and you can find links to learn more about each of these strategies in the video description. If you're using a tag manager, like Google Tag Manager, add the Mixpanel tag and start forwarding and sending events that you've already tagged to Mixpanel. If you have a CDP, like Twilio Segment, make a connection to your Mixpanel project and wire all the data that you're already tracking. If your data lives in a data warehouse like Snowflake or Redshift or BigQuery, connect your warehouse to Mixpanel, and then you can sync all of your event tables to Mixpanel. If you have no idea where to start and nothing in place, don't worry. We have client and server-side SDKs with quick start guides to get you started on any technology platform. And remember, you can always reach out to the Mixpanel team for more information about how to get set up with your particular use case. Whichever path you choose, remember that the goal of data collection is actually simple. In order to make our apps better, we need to keep track of the actions our end users take. Generally, this goes beyond tracking page views. We want to track the specific actions that make our app or our product unique. Maybe that means tracking when a patient starts or ends a meditation or workout. Or maybe that's when patients check in with their coach, or when they visit the doctor or check their blood pressure. The key to developing custom metrics that help you make decisions is to tie the behaviors to actions which are unique to your app. It's very hard to grow when all of your metrics are generic. So, let's talk about more healthcare-centric metrics. For most healthcare companies and products, users will have different roles in the system. For example, you may have different end-user-facing apps that are all part of the same platform, where doctors use the doctor app, nurses use the nurse app, patients use a patient portal, and so on. Therefore, a user's role in your system is extremely important for analytics, because the metrics that we create for doctors are going to be totally different from the metrics we might create for patients. As a result, it is critically important to tag users with their associated role or roles in your system. In Mixpanel, you can do this with user properties, which are attributes in the form of key value pairs. Importantly, user properties describe a user independent of their behaviors and can be leveraged to filter and group users of similar roles together. After you've started streaming events to Mixpanel, make sure to set a user property for every user that describes their role in your platform. If a user has multiple roles in your apps, that's perfectly fine. Simply use a list data type to list all of their roles. When you do this, it becomes very easy for all of your analysts and stakeholders to design metrics for different types of users and to partition your data into views which contain only a particular type of user. Sorting and filtering is a huge part of analytics, and having a role as part of your data will make your life so much easier. Before moving on, we need to talk about HIPAA compliance. As many of you know, there has been quite a bit of FTC activity in the HIPAA space. They have taken enforcement actions against a number of companies and issued warnings against the use of Google Analytics and Facebook's pixel tracking. Thankfully, we here at Mixpanel take privacy very seriously. Mixpanel signs business associate agreements, BAAs, with any customer on a growth or enterprise plan. We can do this because, unlike Google Analytics and Facebook, Mixpanel does not send customer data to third-party advertisers by default. This allows you to look at how users are engaging with your site without having to send protected health information all over the web, where it could be used for unintended purposes. Mixpanel is also highly configurable, so you can pick and choose which information you want to collect from your users and which information you want to discard. Many of our customers in the healthcare space choose to remove specific identifiers from their dataset. This includes things like IP addresses or device IDs. You can configure Mixpanel to not collect that information at all. We provide our customers with a robust set of documentation that allows you to make decisions about the data you collect, how you manage access to that information, and how you use it. Ultimately, Mixpanel provides its customers with a level of control over their data that is unmatched in our industry. And once we have well-governed data flowing into Mixpanel, we can start to build dashboards of bespoke metrics, just for our app. Let's do it. The Mixpanel analysis interface is simple to understand. There are 4 major things: events, which are our behaviors, the things we tracked in our app; users, which are our end users, the people we care about; reports, which are data visualizations for our queries and our metrics; and boards, which tie our reports together in a single view. The simplest way to discover all of these things is to start with a template. We'll head over to create a new board and start with a template and choose from the various options. I'll choose the first one here, company KPIs. Before we start, Mixpanel has just 2 questions for us. How do we activate users in our app? Here we need to make a selection of an event that is some kind of sign up or register. Secondly, we'll need to make a selection about a key value moment in our app. For this example dataset, I'll choose check blood pressure. After making just 2 selections, Mixpanel has magically built many different reports for me that help me understand how I'm acquiring users and retaining them towards that value moment. And because we integrated a user property that describes each user's role in the system, it becomes very easy for us to filter this board based on the end user's role or any custom attribute in our data. So I can recalculate all of these numbers for doctors or nurses or patients in the click of a button. The other neat part about these templates is that they are all editable and customizable. You can click into any report on this template, and now you're viewing the source report. On the left, you can see the query builder, which describes exactly how the metric, on the right hand, is calculated. You can and should modify and experiment with all the different metrics that you can make in Mixpanel. For example, this first report looks at an engagement metric when users check their blood pressure, but it's pretty basic. It's just looking at totals and uniques. But we could easily tweak this to be a bit more sophisticated. Let's try to look at frequency per user. aggregated by the distribution. And now we have a better idea of how many times per day different groups of users check their blood pressure. This analysis is hinting at something really powerful: cohort-driven metrics, where we count the number of users who match some behavioral definition and look at how the population of that group of users changes over time. Let's finish our discussion of behaviors and metrics by examining how we might model custom cohorts in our apps. There are many places in the Mixpanel UI where you can define and build cohorts. For this example, I'm going to head over to the dedicated cohorts module because it's convenient to manage multiple cohorts here. When we think about our app, there are at least 4 classes of users we care about: new users, returning users, churned users, and power users. Each of these groups necessarily has a behavioral definition. What does that mean? It means that we might define new users as any user who did an event within the last 14 days, and that behavior was the first event that they have ever done on our platform. Pretty straightforward, right? Similarly, we might define returning users as any user who is not a new user and has done any event in the last 14 days. Now, again, we can define a churned user as any user who is not a new user and has not done any event in the last 30 days. And finally, we can define power users as a user who does 20 or more events in the last 14 days. I'm keeping the definitions very general for the sake of this video, but you are encouraged to author complex where clauses in Mixpanel cohorts that include hyper-specific definitions of the behaviors which matter to the success of your app. That is the power of Mixpanel. Great, now we have 4 important lifecycle cohorts that we defined. What can we do with these cohorts? In Mixpanel, cohorts are first-class citizens, just like events. So similar to how we could look at the unique number of users who signed up or check their blood pressure, we can also look at the unique number of users who are power users every single day. This is critical because it allows us to adopt a product strategy around growing or shrinking a particular class of users that we defined as important or critical to the future of our product. Healthcare apps don't think in terms of add to cart and checkout. Really, they're creating solutions for patients, doctors, practitioners, clients, and many other classes of users. Healthcare apps are architecting outcomes, and the only way to quantify outcomes is by looking at the very people who are doing or not doing certain actions on your platform. Therefore, the metrics that healthcare products need must be derived in the same language of the outcomes that they seek. Mixpanel does that, and so much more. And that's because Mixpanel is the very best self-serve product analytics platform on the market. In this video, we covered just a few product features which provide a holistic solution for healthcare companies to mature their analytics stack. But there are so many more things that we can do. Get in touch with us today for a full demo of Mixpanel, and let's talk about the future of your organization's data. Thanks for watching.